Today, we're going to talk about something that can make your heart feel like it's running a marathon, even when you're sitting perfectly still. We're talking about those strange electrical glitches in the heart. So, have you ever felt that? You're just, going about your day and then boom, your heart suddenly starts pounding, just racing like crazy. It's a little unsettling, right? Well, that feeling, that sudden racing heartbeat, it actually has a name, and we're going to break it all down.
Yeah, this isn't just some random feeling. It's a real medical thing, and it all comes down to a tiny little glitch in your heart's electrical wiring. The official name is supraventricular tachycardia, or just SVT for short. Now that sounds complicated, but stick with me. Tachycardia, that's just a fancy way of saying a fast heart rate. We're talking over 100 beats a minute. And supraventricular, that tells us where the problem is. Supra means above, and ventricular refers to the lower chambers of the heart. So put it all together. It's a super fast heartbeat that's caused by an electrical glitch starting above the heart's main pumping chambers. Simple as that.
And I know what you're thinking. That sounds pretty scary. But here's the thing. It's actually way more common than you'd think. We're looking at about 2 to 3 people out of every 1,000. So if this has ever happened to you, trust me, you are definitely not alone. Okay, so to really get what goes wrong with SVT, we've got to first understand how the heart is supposed to work. Because when it's working right, it's like this beautifully coordinated electrical performance. I love this analogy. Think of your heart's electrical system like a world-class orchestra. For the music to be perfect, every musician has to follow the conductor, right? Well, in your heart, that conductor is a tiny little group of cells called the SA node. This is your heart's natural pacemaker, the one keeping the beat. And here's how that performance is supposed to go. First, the conductor, our SA node, sends out a signal. That signal just sweeps across the upper chambers, the atria, telling them to squeeze. Then it hits a little relay station called the AV node, where it pauses for just a split second. And then it travels down to the lower chambers, the ventricles, and tells them to contract. Ba-dum, ba-dum. That perfect, steady sequence is what creates a normal heartbeat. But SVT, that's when something crashes the party. It disrupts that perfect rhythm. It's like one of the violinists suddenly stands up and starts playing their own wild solo, throwing the entire orchestra into chaos. So, what causes this chaos? Well, the most common culprit is something called re-entry. Think of it this way. That electrical signal is supposed to follow a one-way street. But in re-entry, there's an extra unauthorized U-turn. This creates a loop, and the signal gets trapped, just going around and around and around, firing off beats way too fast. It's literally a short circuit in your heart. And then there's another cause, what you could call rogue pacemakers. This is when other heart cells just get a little too big for their britches. They start firing off their own signals, trying to become the new conductor and set a brand new, crazy fast tempo. This totally overrides the real conductor, the SA node, and, well, your heart rate just goes through the roof. So you might be wondering, how do doctors even begin to figure out what's going on? How do they find this tiny electrical glitch? Well, a lot of times, the investigation starts by looking at who this tends to happen to most often. And when you look at the data, some really clear patterns emerge. Get this. The risk for SVT is more than double for women compared to men. And for folks over the age of 65, it's a staggering 5 times higher. So age and sex definitely play a role here. Now, the number one tool for finding the problem is the electrocardiogram, or ECG. You've probably seen one. By just placing some electrodes on the skin, doctors get this amazing visual map of the heart's electrical signals. It's like putting a microphone in front of every musician in that orchestra to figure out exactly who's playing the wrong note. And when they look at that ECG, one of the first clues they're looking for is the shape of a specific electrical wave. If that wave is narrow, it usually points to our friend SVT, meaning the problem is in the upper chambers. But if that wave is wide, that can signal something much more serious called ventricular tachycardia, or VT. That means the problem is in the lower chambers. And telling these two apart is absolutely critical, because VT can be life-threatening. It's also important to know that SVT is really an umbrella term. It covers a bunch of different specific glitches. You might have even heard of some of them, like atrial fibrillation, or AFib, or something called Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. They all fall under the SVT umbrella, and each one has its own unique signature on that ECG, like a fingerprint. And some of these signatures are just unmistakable. For instance, there's a type of SVT called atrial flutter that creates this classic sawtooth pattern on the ECG. I mean, it looks exactly like the teeth on a saw. And when a doctor sees that, they know exactly what's happening. The heart's upper chambers are firing off signals like a machine gun. It's a dead giveaway. Okay, so the glitch has been found. Now what? What do you do about it? Well, the goal is actually pretty simple. You just need to hit the reset button on the heart's electrical system.
So, if an episode is happening right now, doctors might start with something called vagal maneuvers. Sounds fancy, but it's really just simple things like bearing down as if you're having a bowel movement. This can stimulate a big nerve that helps, well, reset the heart. If that doesn't do the trick, there are fast-acting IV meds that can stop that short circuit in its tracks. And for the long term, there's a procedure called catheter ablation, where they can actually go in, find that exact faulty spot, and basically fix the wiring for good.
So, look, the bottom line is this. Feeling your heart suddenly race like that is, without a doubt, frightening. But the good news is that SVT is really well understood. And for most people, it's very, very manageable. The absolute key is getting that proper diagnosis so you know exactly what kind of glitch you're dealing with. And that just leaves us with one last thought. Your heart beats over 100,000 times a day. Every single day, it performs this incredible electrical symphony. So understanding these little glitches isn't just about medicine. It's about appreciating the amazing, complex wiring inside every single one of us. Which makes you wonder, right? How can you support its rhythm?